All right, guys, we have a special episode for you today, and especially if you are in the market for an engagement ring. I understand this time of year is extremely important for people that are trying to plan their proposals. Okay, so an engagement ring is very, very important. Obviously, Valentine's is around the corner, and at the same time, there's almost summertime where most people will vacation. So if you are in the market for engagement ring, here are 5 quick tips that I'm going to break down for you. It's going to be short and sweet and to the point, and I hope this brings you some value. So number one, always, always, always consider the style that your partner wants. It's extremely important that you know what she likes. Okay, I cannot emphasize enough. And if you don't know, we here at Fire and Brilliance, we are a jewelry company. We've been in the business for a very, very long time, and I can't emphasize this enough. Only because this happens over and over again where the guy will purchase an engagement ring, but he ends up buying something that he thinks is nice as opposed to what she might think is nice. Does that make sense? So in other words, you want to make sure that you understand and you consider the style that she likes, obviously, because she's the one that will be wearing it, right? And there might be something that she actually already likes. You just don't know that. That's the hardest part, actually. But in terms of finding the right style, knowing the fashion trend that she's actually into, does she like a 3 stone ring? Does she like a vintage ring? Does she like a halo ring? Does she like white gold, rose gold, yellow gold, palladium, platinum, silver? Does she not prefer gemstones? Does she not prefer filigree? Does she not prefer those types of things, right? Those types of design qualities. It's extremely important to know that, so that when you do purchase a ring or you do decide to customize a ring, that you are actually getting what she wants. Because the last thing you want to happen, and we've seen this play out a couple of times, and or more than a couple of times in our history being in the business, that she ends up not liking it, and then the guy who purchased it can't return it because he customized it, which is unique to him, and he has to either live with it or they end up buying a second ring, right? So make sure, I can't emphasize this enough, that you consider the style. Extremely important. Okay, and the hardest part obviously is to find out what she likes. You don't want to ruin it. You don't want to ruin the surprise. So I'll let you be creative as to how you will be able to find this information. You can talk to her close friends and family members, maybe her best friend, maybe her cousin, her sister, her mom, her dad, right? So I'll let you be creative how you're going to figure that out. But it's extremely important that you do find the right style. All right. That's number one. Number two, determine your budget. It's very, very important that you determine your budget. And why is that important? Well, first of all, if you know how much you're willing to spend or how much you have to spend, then you can determine what you can purchase or afford, right? Because a diamond is differently priced than a lab grown diamond, which is differently priced than a moissanite, which is differently priced than an alexandrite, which is differently priced than a ruby or sapphire or cubic zirconia or whatever it is that you decide to purchase. It's extremely important to understand that there is a budget for every type of gemstone, every quality, every metal type. Is she into silver, gold, platinum, palladium? What is she into? And also, at the same time, the design of the ring. Is it going to require a customized ring, or is it something that you can purchase from a big box chain that is mass produced? Is that something she likes? Or does she prefer something simple like a solitaire? Or does she prefer something that's a little more loud, right? So it's extremely important to understand these things, only because it makes sense, right? Because it will come down to how much you will have to pay. And if you determine the budget ahead of time, then at least you're able to put some parameters around what you're willing to spend and how much higher you're willing to go above the budget or below the budget, or at least within the budget, to ensure that you can afford the jewelry that you're planning on purchasing for the engagement ring, right? So make sure you determine your budget first, because you'll be surprised how much you can save or how much more expensive it can be than what you're thinking before shopping for it, right? So make sure you do understand how much you're willing to spend. That's point number two. Now, point number three is work with a reputable Jeweler. Yes, it's very, very important to work with the reputable jeweler. And why is that? It's the reason why you want to work with a reputable jeweler is the same reason why you want to work with a reputable mechanic. It's the same reason why you want to work with a reputable plumber. It's the same reason why you want to work with any service or product that requires a little bit of expertise, right? Because if you're working with someone reputable, then at least you can instill your trust in them. So, how do you find someone reputable, right? How do you find someone that you know you can trust? Well, first of all, you have to determine what kind of jewelry you're into. So, if you are trying to buy a watch, it makes sense to go to a jeweler that has a niche in watches, that understands watches and talks about watches and has expertise in watches, right? So if you're trying to purchase an engagement ring, then it makes sense to go to a jeweler that sells a lot of engagement rings, right? Because then they'll know what they're talking about. They'll know about gemstones, they'll know about design, they'll know about different types of metals, they'll know which items should require thicker for very specific styles, which items are more petite if for very specific styles. So in other words, you want to make sure that you find a reputable jeweler that has expertise in the engagement ring, right? Again, there's 5 quick pro tips based on engagement rings. So if you're purchasing an engagement ring, you don't want to go to a guy that sells watches and then ask for an engagement ring, right? It just makes sense. So it's extremely important. And believe it or not, it sounds like common sense, but a lot of people do that. They assume that they can go to any jeweler and that jeweler will know everything about jewelry, which is untrue. A guy that has an expertise in watches may not know much about diamonds or moissanite, and a guy that only sells necklaces and chains may not know about watches, right? So it's extremely important that if you're going to purchase an engagement ring, you are going to the right source. And the other way to determine if they're reputable or not is if they've been in business for the long term. It makes sense. So if they've been in business for 10 years plus, 15 years plus, 20 years plus, 30 years plus, typically they're doing something right, right? Because most people that are not in business for that long or have only been in business for the last couple of years or no longer in business, if they're not doing it right, they typically can't last that long because your reputation is extremely important in this business to last for the long term, right? So work with a reputable jeweler. Okay, so the fourth quick pro tip is to select the metal. And I can't emphasize this enough. I mean, this is part of the consider the style, but at the same time, it's extremely important that you consider the metal, not just for the style, but for you to also know whether there are other factors when it comes to metals too, not just the style and not just the color and not just the fashion trend, but some metals may cause an allergic reaction to very specific people. Yes, that's true. Okay. Sometimes when you mix gold with nickel, many people may have an allergic skin reaction to the metal nickel. So if that is the case, then you may have limited options as to what you can choose, right? So you may want to find out if she has an allergic reaction. Not everybody. This is actually a very rare case, but it does happen from time to time where people may have an allergic reaction to the metal nickel. So if nickel is mixed into the gold that jeweler is using, that you may want to opt with a jeweler that doesn't do that, right? So is it very important when you select the metal, again, not just for the fashion, the trend, the style, but because of other reasons such as allergy issues, right? So the last reason is go beyond diamonds. And I say this because many people, when they think about the engagement ring, they normally think about diamonds. Diamonds have been marketed for a very, very, very long time, and it's a beautiful stone. Okay, it's actually a very, very nice stone, and it's almost always the common stone chosen for an engagement ring. But I do want to also let you know that if you are open to the idea of other gemstones, there are many colored stones that are not just as beautiful, but some of them are even more rare than diamonds. Okay. So if you find a very beautiful red ruby with high clarity and high cut grade, and or a green emerald or a blue sapphire with a high clarity and high cut grade, these gemstones can be more expensive than that of diamonds. Or obviously, if you are more into lab grown, you could definitely go with lab grown diamonds, lab created moissanite, or you can choose, if you don't want to go with any gemstones, you can even choose no gemstones, right? So the options are unlimited only to the idea if you are stuck on the idea of the traditional way of doing things. In other words, you only want to purchase diamonds for an engagement ring. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? I'm not here to bash diamonds or anything. I mean, we sell diamonds all the time, right? But if you are, many people do purchase, decide to purchase an engagement ring, maybe you should also consider if this is part of her style. Maybe she actually likes a red ruby. Maybe she might like a green emerald. Maybe she prefers an alexandrite or a sapphire or a tourmaline or a pink sapphire, right? So it just really depends. What is it that she likes? And if she prefers that, then why go with a diamond, right? So go beyond diamonds. So those are the 5 quick pro tips. Hopefully this was short and sweet enough for you. Hopefully this gives you some value. Hopefully this is able to provide you with enough information and equip you with enough information so that when you are shopping for an engagement ring, that you're considering these 5 things so that you make the right choice that's best for you and for her. All right. That said, thanks again for tuning in, guys. What kind of design would you choose when you are purchasing an engagement ring? Leave in the comment section below. Let me know if there's another tip that you thought about that I did not include here. Obviously, there are way more other tips in terms of shopping for an engagement ring. These are just 5 quick tips I wanted to give you. Just my insight being in the jewelry business, and hopefully this helps you out. And if you missed the last episode, we had talked about 5 quick pro tips when choosing a natural diamond or a lab grown diamond, and you can click on that right here as soon as this is over. Just go ahead and click and tap on it. I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.